want to know what formulas causes people to stop having kids and for people to have more kids. More kids, lack of education, does that equal more kids? Lack of entertainment and advancement in technology, is that what causes more kids? Is it cultural expectation of, hey, in our community, in our religion, you can have as many kids as you want, 5, 6, 7, 8 kids? What is it? Okay, and then like the number that we have, that's 2.1. I like that because we have a number to go off of, that we're at least growing our population. I'm more interested to see what trends do we notice with some countries that are growing and declining. What is it? Why is that happening?
I really do think in the Muslim nations, in the Quran, it does say children are a gift from God, and they just and I know Muslim guys that have. I know a guy, one of my boys has 5 kids, and their attitude is just flood the world as much as us as we can. So we'll be a voice to be heard. And I mean, dude, it's happening. The majority of Muslim men that I know have at least 3 kids, at least average.
And the same, I believe, in Judaism, the insistence that children are a blessing. Now, so I don't have the formula. What I can tell you, and what we address in the book, is that in the West, we are embracing the anti-formula. Not that children are a blessing from God, higher power, whatever, but that children are a curse upon the world, that humanity is a cancer upon the world, that to bring a child into the world is an act of ultimate selfishness. Let's say that you are a young and impressionable young person reading the New York Times, Washington Post, or The Atlantic. What are the stories that you would have encountered over the last 6 months? Having children is selfish. Children will consume or will produce more CO2 into the atmosphere during a lifetime than 5 trucks or whatever. And what we found was that actually public opinion polls are beginning to reflect this kind of apocalyptic vision of the future, where increasing numbers of men and women around the world, but primarily in the West, are saying we cannot bring a child into the world because the world is going to end. Famously, AOC said 4 years ago, it would end in 12. That the world is getting worse, which is another falsehood. Now, it doesn't mean that the world doesn't have problems. The world has God knows how many problems. But compared to when you compared us to 20, 50, 200 years ago, the world is in much better shape. Yet somehow people have this notion that the world is getting worse, it is going to end, we are going to run out of resources, we are going to despoil the planet is going to explode, everything. And so increasingly people are saying we cannot bring a child into the world that is about to end. And so the point
you think people are thinking about that?
Well, they say so explicitly. It's in the book. We point to opinion polls that show that people really believe that we are heading towards some sort of a planetary catastrophe.
So, Marian, what do you tell those people that are saying? Because like right now, I think we're at 7,900,000 and growing. When it comes,
we crossed 8 billion in November of last year. Officially.
You didn't get the update?
I didn't get the email or the balloon, whatever. So, but hey, Marian, what do you tell these people that are they're concerned about all the natural resources that we do have? So, are you saying with that growth comes all the stuff like the fake meat that they're making, eat bugs? Like, are you saying that there's enough natural resources here that we could flourish no matter how high this number is going to get?
Oh, absolutely. There is plenty to go around, and when shortages do occur within the market mechanism, you can always produce more. We produce much more wheat per acre of land than our ancestors could. That is why we are able to feed 8 billion people around the world. Have you noticed that in spite of all of this population growth, so let's start with the numbers. 1800, Thomas Jefferson is president of the United States. There is 1 billion people in the world. Today, Biden is president, for better and for worse. There is 8 billion people in the world. And yet, we are able to feed on all of these people. And actually, we are beginning to take some of the land which we used for agriculture, and we are beginning to return it to nature, to animals, and to flora. How do we do that? We increase wheat production or yield on 1 acre of land. This is how you do it. If you're running out of fish, we are currently running out of fish in the wild. Much of the ocean is becoming depopulated of fish. What do? You turn to aquaculture. You start breeding fish in ponds, 50% of all of our fish consumption now is fish grown specifically for the purpose of being eaten, so we don't catch them in the wild, and hopefully we can get to 100%. Should at some point in the future, should it happen that, I don't know, we are going to somehow run out of cattle or chicken, well, we are just going to grow cells of chicken or beef in huge vats, vats of liquid, and we are going to produce food that way. It's not going to be impossible food. This is actually going to be, you'll be eating a steak.
Actual steak.
Yeah, it just happened to be grown from a cell of probably a fantastic cow.
Yeah.
So all of those listeners out there who always wanted to eat a Wagyu steak but cannot afford it because it costs $300.
Yeah.
One day we'll be able to take the genes or the cells from the best cows in the world, maybe the ones from Japan, and everybody will have a steak for $5 or $10.
I can't wait.
So that's what I'm saying. Is that the amount of resources in the world is only subject to human knowledge. It's human knowledge that matters, because we can always create more. We can grow more.
Is your contention that with population growth, we're at 8 billion, we were at 1 billion
in 1800
200 years ago plus, that the more people, the more minds there are, the more technological advancements will come of it, the more, you get smarter, more efficient, more innovative, and better things will happen because there's more people, not despite it.
That is the fundamental premise of the book. So the thing to remember is that not everybody can be an inventor or an innovator. Only a small fraction of humans will ever invent or innovate anything. It's in single digits. It's probably around 5 or 6%.
But everyone reaps the benefits of those innovations.
Precisely.
Like Elon Musk.
Precisely. Yeah. I mean, I wish to God that we could have 8 billion Elon Musks.
Oh my God.
The world would look very different, but we don't. But my point is that 6% out of a population of 300 million people who lived at the time of Christ or Caesar Augustus, really the world's population was 300 million, or 6% of 1 billion people who lived at the time of Jefferson, is a still much smaller total number than if you have a population of 8 billion people. So if that fraction of humans who innovate stays the same, then obviously you're going to have many more people like that in a population of 8 billion. And it is these people who have, it's only human mind currently that can produce new ideas. It is new ideas that you can turn into inventions. Then those inventions get tested in the marketplace to separate bad inventions from good inventions. The VHS from Betamax, and the Diet Coke from Crystal Coke or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I remember that.
The Trabant from a Ferrari. And you will end up basically with innovations that increase productivity, human productivity, and therefore our standards of living.
I want to go back to what Pat sort of questioned you on, was about whether or not, whether it's the media, whether it's politicians, whoever it is, mainstream media, that is trying to convince people not to have kids. What I want to kind of hone in on is America and Western civilizations. I want to know what percentage is white, college-educated women who are basically saying, I'm done with having kids. This dream of being a mother, a housewife, a homemaker it's not for me. I just want to work and make money. And then that is leading to sort of population decline. Can you hone in on that?
So I don't know the numbers because the studies that I have seen, the public opinion polls, have not been broken down by race or political persuasion.
Just go with your gut on this.
No, but what I can tell you is that the richer the society becomes, the higher you go up the Maslow hierarchy of needs. At the bottom you have your clothing, your food, your water, your security, and at the top you have self-actualization. And basically what tends to happen is that it is in societies where people are extremely rich, and again, we are extremely rich by historical standards, where people have all this time and all this money to basically devote themselves to pet projects, such as I want to live in the United States where all the plastic is banned, or I want to transform the United States into a society where there are no guns or where there are abortions and things like that. The point is, people have all this time and all of these resources to pursue their pet project. Now, the pet project can be good, the pet project can be bad, but it's only rich people who have this amount of time to do that.
Yeah. Can you pull up Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Hierarchy of needs.
So
yeah.
it's very interesting because I want to get your opinion on essentially what you said. I interviewed this. You familiar with the Freedom Forum? It's by Gary Kasparov.
Yes.
Okay, so I was invited there via Pat a year and a half ago, and I interviewed who is essentially forgive me, I forgot his name. He basically hosts The Daily Show, but of Iraq.
Oh, really?
He's a comedian, humorist, satire. And I said, what's your biggest wish for the people of Iraq? And, you would assume, living under no fear and tyrannical governments. And he says, my wish is for them to just come home every night and watch reality TV, and that be the biggest thing on their mind. I said, what? What are you talking about? He says, do you understand how lucky you are in America to go to your job, to work, to just live your life, do what you want to do, and come home and have the freedom to just watch meaningless dribble on TV because you're not concerned that a bomb is coming over your head, that someone in your family is going to get dragged out of the house for having dissenting political views, and just you're not, scraping by for food, water, shelter, any of the basic human needs on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And he goes, my wish is for the people of Iraq to just watch the Kardashians mind-numbingly mindless.
Yeah.
But he goes, unfortunately, we can't do that. Life's tough. And that was such a stark example of like, holy shit, that's where we're at in America today. We have life is so easy. It's so good that our biggest issue is like whether Khloe lost 4 pounds today on the Kardashians, if you even know who that
Rihanna's
is.
pregnant or not.
Or Rihanna's pregnant, whatever it is. And it's just, things are so good here in the West, in America, that it's almost manifesting like things are so bad because we have so much time to focus on minor things that don't affect day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Is that essentially your premise?
Yes, and it gets a little bit worse than that, and in a sense that, you see, at the top of the pyramid, things are only zero-sum. At the bottom of the pyramid, if you have freedom, if you have people, they are going to provide for water, food, shelter through normal market mechanism, right? We have sort of tackled that particular that level at the Maslow pyramid of needs back in maybe like the 40s or the 50s. But again, the market can provide more food, more shelter, more sleep, innovation, growth, etc. But at the top of the pyramid, the problem with self-actualization, where it becomes zero-sum, is that your idea what a perfect society may be in direct conflict with mine.
Yeah.
So maybe you're prioritizing equality of outcome over my prioritization of liberty and the ability to succeed or fail within the market system. And so when we are at the top of the pyramid and you insist that everybody should have equality of outcome, that affects me negatively immediately because it means that I have to forego something if I'm better off than you are. And that's what leads to social conflict. I think that's part of the reason why we are at each other's throats, is because we are all at the top of the pyramid, but we have very different ideas about how the world should be structured.
In the West, because life is so easy.
Yeah, about how America should function.
By the way, Pat, what was, they do this sort of like debate. I don't know if it's in Cambridge or in Oxford, it's in the UK, and they had this comedian come on and basically sort of clown wokeness. Did you see this?
Yeah, Konstantin Kissin. He runs a podcast.
Okay,
yeah,
you've seen
in the UK.
this.
Yes, I have.
I don't know if you can pull that up, Rob. What a prime example of this. Because he basically, you talked about like bowing to the idol of greenness. What was the terminology you used? Just a little
the green
bit ago?
religion, yeah.
The green religion.
Eco-fanatics.
And he said, let me tell you why the climate change and the global catastrophe is nowhere gonna work on it. Can you go back to that Maslow's hierarchy of needs? And he basically said, you have literally billions of people in all around the world, India, China, third world countries, Africa, Middle East, who are still on the bottom level, who are still just fighting for air, water, food, shelter, all that. And here you are at the top of the pyramid, self-actualizing what a green new world would be.
That's right.
And he goes, it's never going to happen because you have billions of people just fighting for the basics of survival. Meanwhile, you're over here basically on your, iPad in your air-conditioned home, in your college education, and just sort of looking down on people because they won't take climate change as seriously as you when they're literally fighting for their basic needs and survival. And that was the guy's, I think, his entire premise.
Kissing. So I would sort of divide the world into two parts. One is the developing or the underdeveloped world, and they are obviously not going to buy into the whole decarbonization of the economy. Wherever you stand on fossil fuels or green technology, the fact is we are going to need fossil fuels for many more years to come because they are the cheapest. And so the people who are still very poor, say most of Africa, most of Latin America, much of Asia, these people are going to be using those sorts of fuels.
More than half the world is what you're saying.
Well over half of the world. And then the other part of the world, the Western world, also generally tends to be democratic. And so what we are basically saying is that we are asking, or rather the Greens are asking us to democratically elect for us to be poorer, right? And I think that much of the conflict in the West right now has to do with the fact that in order to implement the green policies, all of us would have to suffer a great decline in our standards of living. And that's what's playing out already in places where the green agenda is most advanced, United Kingdom and Germany. People are washing themselves in lukewarm water because they cannot afford hot water. They cannot heat their homes in the middle of winter. Europe is much further ahead of where we are heading if we embrace the same policies, the same green policies. We are just going to be much poorer, or alternatively, we are going to elect governments that are going to behave in a very different fashion.
If you believe the future looks bright, order your Future Looks Bright hat today.